Now, the leaders of the UAE have always supported different faiths being practiced here, and the country from its beginnings has always enjoyed religious freedom. Currently, the UAE is home to about 900,000 Catholics, and as the country continues to welcome an influx of expatriates, this figure is set to rise. So how is the government supporting the church's continued growth in the UAE? And how is the church promoting tolerance and dialogue between the faiths? We sat down with the Bishop of Southern Arabia, Hinder, to find out. Past and present leaders of the UAE have continuously acknowledged the country's reliance on its diverse and rich community to guarantee its prosperity, as well as their obligation to respect and understand the many religious beliefs of the people living here. So what has been the role of the UAE government in supporting the church's existence here, as well as its continued growth?
Yeah, it was essential that someone gave us the land. And we are very grateful for that already Sheikh Shakbut and then later Sheikh Zayed, they were open enough to give us the necessary land that we could build a church, respectively also a school. First on the Corniche, and then in the early 80s we were transferred to the present location here. In the meantime, of course, things have developed. We got recently a piece of land in Musafa for another church, and equally belonging to the Emirate of Abu Dhabi in Al Ain. Then, of course, a similar situation we have in Dubai, then also in Sharjah, in Ras Al Khaimah, in Fujairah. In all these places, in the meantime, we have the possibility and the reality of a church and partly also schools. And that's of course possible only if someone is the donator of the land, because in these countries we cannot own, strictly speaking, land, and we are happy that we have this possibility. In the recent times, I would say the security issue. It is obvious that the government has an interest that we are secure, that nothing is happening, because they are also a little bit afraid, looking at the wider horizon of the region, that the security could be precarious, not only but also for the Christians. And I know that they were very concerned about that, and we are grateful that in a rather discreet way they are protecting us, that we don't need to be afraid.
With the UAE having the highest per capita expatriate population in the world, what role does religion play, and in this case the church, in linking expats to their country and culture, as well as promoting tolerance and dialogue between the faiths?
First of all, I would say for the individual human being, religion is an important part of his personality. And coming here to another cultural and religious context, it's important that these people who are Christians in our case, or Catholics, that they find a new home. And that's one of the experiences I made right from the beginning when I came here 12 years ago, that our church compounds are somehow like a saloon where people find a piece of their home, also in a religious regard. And that, I think, is an important element to create peace in the individual person as such, and then also in the mutual relationship. Now, regarding the, let's say, tolerance, I would say, first of all, most of these people have a multi-religious experience from back home. So it's not completely new to live in such a context, although the whole setting, of course, is completely different, and I agree. We try to promote this not only in educating our people to an understanding of other faiths and religions, but also through our schools. Our schools are open not only for Catholics. In all our schools we have Muslims, we have Hindu, and it's part of our program in the schools that they are learning that in a particular way. I remember a meeting with one of the sheikhs, which is only a few months back. There was the question of a school, and we will get the school land in that emirate. But he said, I want a school which is open, and I trust that you will do that. So also we are somehow recognized as an institution which doesn't think mainly in a confessional and a confessional aspect, but an institution that is bringing hope, education to everybody, regardless what's their belief.
How many expatriate Catholic followers does the Church in the UAE have today? Have you seen this number increase or decrease over the years, and what do you attribute the changes to?
Of course, we do not have exact statistic, but for the statistic we have to give regularly also to the center in Rome. I'm usually giving about around 900,000, maybe they are more. I guess they are rather more, maybe they are less, we simply do not know. We know that we have here in the country about 600,000 Filipinos plus, and at least 80% of them must be Catholic, according to the normal demographic situation. Then, of course, we have several 100,000 Indians, millions of Indians, but several thousand, 100,000 Christian and also Catholics. So I think if I say 900,000 is not exaggerated. And has it grown? I would say since I'm here during the last 12 years, I notice they are more numerous than at the beginning. Of course, all this depends on the economic situation and the policy also of the country. If they are letting in mainly people from the Filipinos, then our people population is also growing. If they let them in from Kerala, our population is growing. If they let people come more from Nepal or from Bangladesh, of course that has little influence on our numbers respectively. Maybe we are decreasing in that moment. But the fact is that all our parishes, since I'm here, have rather grown in number. I don't know any which has decreased in this time. Maybe in the future we have another situation that depends on the policy of the country.
Welcome back. The Catholic Church takes a firm stance on many of the most controversial issues of the day. So how is the Church developing within today's society? And are its traditionally held positions still as relevant today? Last year, Pope Francis launched a plea for Catholic churches and its followers across Europe to provide shelter to thousands of refugees and migrants. In a region where the plight of refugees is an issue of growing concern, what is the Catholic Church's role, both locally and internationally, to help support these vulnerable groups of people?
Yeah, regarding our own population, I would say we are a migrant church for migrants, anyway. And among these migrants, there might be also refugees, insofar they are getting the right to enter the country. You know the situation here in the Arabian Gulf in this regard. Worldwide seen, you know the position of our present Pope Francis, and which is also my position, that of course we have where people are homeless, refugees, people on the way, fleeing the war or whatever the reason may be for their no more remaining at home, we have to find a solution. And it's part of our Christian message and our Christian life that we have to help these people. Now, of course, I understand it's not always possible to find the respective country which can all of them give them a domicile. But frankly speaking, I'm in admiration of Angela Merkel, who had the courage to open the borders of Germany. Also, that creates now a lot of troubles for her. But I think it was an act in that moment which was right. despite of many questions that may arise. And I would wish that many other countries would have in a similar way this openness. Simply we have to act. Of course, afterwards there's the question how to assure the security, to have a sane selection somehow, because I know that with this stream of people there are also elements wandering with which we don't like and which nowhere are welcome. But we shouldn't punish the others who are really in need by a wrong policy. Then it's part, I would say, of our gospel training that we have to look to find a new home for these people, be it in a provisional way or in a permanent way.
Turning our attention to another issue of great importance for the UAE government and its people, and that's the conservation of our planet's natural resources. Now, Pope Francis has been an outspoken advocate in relation to this, which has surprised many in both economic and political circles. Can you talk about this further, and why is it an issue of religious concern?
Laudato Si is the encyclical letter. Why it is important? Yeah, I think we can say it more or less with the words of the Pope. It's our common home. We all are created beings, as we believe at least. And we have our common home, and that's the basic. The rest is depending on that. If we can't be any more at home, if we can't any more perspire, if we can't any more drink water, if we can't any more have a healthy environment, all the rest, including religion, is at risk. So insofar, creation and preservation of the creation is vital for every human being and human action as well. And I think it was time that even from the top of the church one day, here a powerful word was said. Of course, I know also from reactions in my home country that not everybody did agree or does agree with the Holy Father, because they say he's too much left, or I don't know what. He puts at risk the whole liberal society. They would say, well, first of all, I don't think that is maybe it has to be put into question in certain regards, because if everybody on the present world would live the lifestyle we have here in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, the world would be in ruins tomorrow. We have to be aware of that. Now, I don't say we have to go back to the holes of the first human beings. That's another question. I think we have the right to have also a pleasant life, but it has to be more balanced. And I think that's the push he gives us, and his language is so refreshing, but also provoking, not only for the liberals, it's also for others. But I'm happy about that.
Finally, in today's modern age, which is changing at a rapid pace, how is the church evolving within the community that it serves? And are its traditionally held positions and moral teachings still relevant today?
Yeah, that's a big discussion, especially in certain parts of the world, that the church is backwards oriented and conservative and so on. I'm not sure that every position which sounds now is really conservative. Let's come back just a moment to the question of the preservation of the nature and the environment. This is very conservative in a certain sense. And I think we have to be, in certain regards, conservative. That means to conserve certain basic values. And I think the church, with a history of 2,000 years, and in the basic she has always said the same thing, of course with modifications throughout the history. It is not true that the church is not able to adapt, but adapt within the basic values. And of course that sounds right now in the ears and in the hearts of many people a little bit harsh if we do not simply adapt the certain liberal positions regarding, let's say, the sexuality or in other concerns. That does not mean that the Church is unable to understand the human being. I would rather say it's a way to help to a better understanding, a better life, which may sometimes also ask some sacrifices, I agree, but that doesn't mean it's backwards, no. I think if the world has to be and wants to have a future, we have to be a little more again on that line. By the way, I think we are there rather in a certain consonance also with the Muslim world, as far as I know that.
That brings us to the end of our program. If you would like to know more about any of the stories you have seen tonight, you can contact us at uaeweekly@city7tv.com or by calling us on 04367 2230. From myself and the entire team, have a great week ahead.